Hey everybody, welcome to BrickVault. Today we are reviewing the LEGO Star Wars Advent Calendar. So right off the bat, spoilers, I'm going through every single one of these things that's included for the Advent Calendar. If you don't want to be ruined, or if you want to be surprised or have somebody else surprised for the holiday season, skip to the end. Don't skip to the end. I'm going to show them all at the end. So anyways, yeah, I'm going to be showing every single one of these micro builds. It is set number 75213. It has 307 pieces. And all right, well, I'm not going to intro it any more than that. Let's just get started. All right, so this is what the main artwork looks like for this Advent Calendar. That's how it stands up like this. It looks like we've got a Tatooine. No, is this Jakku? The tent, right?
Might be.
I'm pretty sure it's Hoth. Dude, that's so weird. They have no distinctive features on either of them.
It is Ice Planet and Sand Planet.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, guys. Ramon and I conferred. It's like they strategically didn't put any specific landmarks that would tell you, yes, this is Hoth and not necessarily Starkiller Base, or yes, this is Tatooine and not necessarily Jakku. They're both just it's just Desert Planet and Ice Planet. That's a little bit disappointing. Oh yeah, and there's also this weird reference. That's gotta be a reference to Nightmare Before Christmas with the snowy wave. Just my personal opinion. All right, now let's get started. Alright, I just finished all of the 24 builds and or figures for this year's Advent Calendar, so let's bring them into the Lightroom and I'll tell you which ones I like and which ones I don't really like so much. Alright, so we've got all of the builds together now. That's all 24, including the minifigs. Some of the builds here I like a lot, some of them not so much, and unfortunately, I think a significant portion of, not significant, there's probably 3 almost exact repeats from previous designs. This is almost exactly the same Luke's land speeder as a Advent Calendar before. This one, which I think is a great design for a Naboo N1 starfighter, unfortunately we've seen the exact same build. It's not even similar, it's straight up like the exact same build from another year, which is unfortunate. I'm just knocking this out right off the bat. Also the AT-AT, this is the AT-ACT. Basically just a few pieces changed, and this TIE fighter, this Special Forces TIE fighter, is a pretty similar build to another TIE fighter that we saw in the past. All of them actually I think are decent enough builds, but it is kind of unfortunate that the Advent calendars are just sort of repeating themselves a little bit. That's just my initial impression. I started to recognize things, so I was a little bit disappointed with the overall layout, just with seeing all the repeats. It's not like this is the first time they've repeated builds before in the Advent Calendar. But anyways, now let me get into each one of these individually, and I'll let you know what I think. So day one, we get Luke's land speeder. Like I said, it's almost the exact same land speeder that we saw before. Slightly different. It has that dark tan panel piece on there and maybe a couple other little tiny color changes. Still a good build. I like it. I understand why they chose this one as the very first build. They usually lead with quite a strong one. So there you have it. That's Luke's land speeder. And then next up is Rose. Not everyone's favorite character. Still a decent minifigure and a pretty good hairpiece, regardless of what you thought about the main character. She's the same as what we got from that other little set when they're in that little kind of shuttle. So this is not an exclusive fig, but decent enough printing. Let's move on to maybe one of the strangest builds. It did take me a second to figure this one out, but I did figure it out maybe within the first 10 to 15 seconds after building it. This is the arrowhead from the Freemaker Adventures. It's just a very fat arrowhead with not as many distinctive features as I would have liked. Personally, I didn't even like the ship that much, so to get it, I was like, all right, fine. We have a micro build for it, and it's kind of a funky one. So not my favorite design, but the next one's pretty good. This here is the TX-130T, or that main tank that the clones would drive around in. A recent set came out that was actually pretty high quality. Personally, I've always liked the shape for this tank. They got the guns on the sides. There's kind of an interesting dynamic right here in the front. I know they're like kind of like ATST vents here, but they used a trans piece. Ultimately, I do think this is actually a pretty good micro build for this particular tank. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely glad to have another IG-88. I think he's a very cool character, especially fleshed out within the extended universe or Legends or something. But technically, he is an exclusive figure just because this clip piece with this gun attached to his back is slightly different. So he is actually going to appear as a different figure if you're searching for him on BrickLink or other websites. So it's kind of funny that he's technically exclusive, but of course the print for him isn't exclusive. And we've gotten very similar versions of him, or pretty much the exact same version of him in other sets before. So technically exclusive. There we go. We got IG-88. I do like the character. And then this is probably one of my favorite micro builds that we get from the entire advent calendar here. This one is, of course, it's Cloud City and one of those cloud cars. I can't remember the name of that thing, but it's pretty recognizable with the double cockpit and kind of that interesting double nose as well. It's basically like two small pods kind of attached to each other that's circling around the underside of a micro Cloud City. It's original, totally original. We didn't get a version of this type of thing before, and it's a pretty nice caricature. It's pretty recognizable. Ramon didn't get this at all, which was really funny, but I thought it's probably one of the strongest builds from the Advent calendar. And I would be tempted to say the same thing about the Naboo N1, but like I said before, it is a complete copy from, I think it's 2012 or something. Don't quote me on that, but it is absolutely a copy from an Advent calendar maybe 5 or 6 years ago, which is disappointing because it is, I mean, I guess I know why they chose it. It is actually a pretty good micro design. It looks awesome. It is a cool looking build. So I guess it is the only reason why I'm docking it is because it's a repeat, which generally speaking, I wouldn't like to see. But let me know what you guys think. I do think it is actually a pretty decent micro N1. Now, I know I haven't been keeping track of the order. This is technically day 8. It is a battle droid. Moving on to another one of the stronger builds for this year. This is Grievous's ship. I can't remember its name or if it has I'm sure it has a special name. Of course it does. It's got this little trans piece for kind of holding it up on its side so it doesn't fall all the way back. But it's a nice looking micro build. I like the way they put it together. I don't know what else to say. It's got a pretty recognizable sort of caricature of itself. And yeah, I'd say it's probably one of the stronger builds. Moving on to this one, they always do this in an Advent calendar set. It's just a turret, it's a stud gun, nothing special, no extra detailings or I would say even special pieces, so relatively boring. That's day 10. And here is Rowan. Rowan is, I don't know, he's got a decent enough print for the torso piece, not exclusive to this set, and I always thought it was interesting how these free maker characters had the darker tan skin, which I think is good to have more of those pieces out for the character. Let's see, does he have an alternate expression? Probably. Nope, no he doesn't actually. And a pretty good symbol on the back. Sorry, I'm not very familiar with the Freemaker Adventures. In fact, I definitely didn't just ask Ramon off screen what the name of this character was before talking about him. Now, day 12 is a really strong build for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think it's a very nice micro build for Anakin's Jedi Starfighter. I think that's what we're looking at here. It's definitely a Jedi Starfighter. And number one, yeah, I think it's a good build for it. But number two, we also get not one, but 2 sets of these 1x2 curved slope pieces with that cut in corner. It's still a relatively new piece, and I don't know how many we've gotten in dark gray yet. So the fact that we get 2 sets of those makes it just nice that we're starting to get more of these pieces. I still want to get a lot more of them coming out in sets for light gray because they're just such a useful, fun part. So it's a good build, and they used some nice pieces. Here is the Imperial Troop Transport. Not much to say about it. I think it was a pretty boring looking vehicle from the show, and I suppose they did a good job in terms of a micro build, but yeah, it's a boring looking ship that's made smaller, so it's still kind of boring to me. Once again, just like the stud gun, they always do a weapon rack for the advent calendar. You know, you get 2 blasters, no extra detailings, but I do kind of like that they made this piece in sand blue for this. It's not quite as common of a color, but yeah, whatever, that's what it is. And if I haven't said it yet in this episode, I would say that this advent calendar is definitely stronger than last year for minifigs. In fact, I would just like to get all Death Troopers if I could. There's no pauldron for them. I'm pretty darn sure that the detailing isn't special or anything. This is just a good old-fashioned Death Trooper. He looks really nice though. And yeah, let's move on. And all right, we've got the Rafter. I've got a little bit more to say about this guy. First off, I really like the colors that they used for him. I think the build is good. This is probably one of the stronger builds from the entire advent calendar. But there's one thing about it, and look close, look at the gold on that. That's just the molded gold. That's the pearl gold. Maybe that's not the right word for it, but it does kind of irk me because I was excited when I looked at the box. That looks like the sprayed on gold. That looks like the much more shiny version, and I knew we'd be getting a stud with an open hole that's the sprayed gold, but when you get the actual set, it's not that type of piece. So I was a little bit bummed to see that the color is actually different, and I knew it was going to be an exclusive part, and then I opened it up and it wasn't, so I was kind of bummed about that. But still, anyways, it's actually probably one of the stronger builds from the calendar. And this is, by the way, still day 17. We're still going in order. This is a Guabian security guy. This is a really cool looking character. Not exclusive, but just such an amazing head mold. I'm really glad that we get another one of him. Like I said, him and the Death Trooper and one other character make this advent calendar slightly stronger than maybe last year. And then we get a TIE fighter for the Special Forces. Sorry, yeah, it's a TIE fighter from the First Order. This is the Special Forces version. We get a very similar build. This is one of the almost copied builds from the past, from a different type of TIE fighter. So that is, you know, it's fine. I guess there's only so many ways to make micro versions of TIE fighters and other types of builds. So I do like that this is different enough, and I think it actually looks pretty darn good. It fits in with the micro scale that we're working with at the studio, so I like that. And then the AT-ACT is, I think, a bit more of a copy from a previous AT-AT. Obviously, they changed some pieces in there to get the orange, and that is also a bracket piece, which is actually pretty nice to get in orange, so I like that. But once again, this is almost just a direct copy of something that we've had in the past. And generally speaking, I do like to see the new stuff, and I think a lot of people that get this advent calendar usually like to see new stuff too. Sticking with Rogue One, we get our Zeta class shuttle. So it's got these two little, I'm going to assume, blasters on the side, which is kind of fun. I don't know, maybe that isn't a creative liberty. For some reason, I just don't remember this shuttle having weapons of any kind, but that definitely looks like weapons sticking off the bottom. I know I'm too lazy to like Google search it right now, but yeah, I think it looks good. It could maybe stand to be one plate higher. That's just like the tiniest little critique I could think of it right off the bat. But this is actually a fun little micro build. And then I'm really glad we got this speeder bike here towards the end on day 21, because it kind of drives home the thing I've been talking about with repeats and stuff, and me sort of having a problem. And that's because they've made a speeder bike. They've made a micro speeder bike in the past that looks very different. It really is a totally different approach. It's a different design, and I think this has its strong points as well as the speeder bike from the past. So, like I've said, there are somewhat limited ways to approach small builds, but not quite as limited as you might think. And this is a very, very good example of a design or a ship or a vehicle that's been reapproached completely, and I think they were pretty successful with the new design. Now, as a technicality, this isn't a repeat, I guess. They have done a water evaporator at this size with a pretty similar build style in the past, but you know what, they Christmasified it, so I guess they get a pass. And it's kind of interesting, the colors that they used for this one. I like it a lot. We got sand green for the clips, which is great, and then lime green for that modified brick with studs on all sides, which is kind of an interesting one. It must have come out in a set, or it might come out in a set in the nearish future, which is why we got it in such a unique color. But I think this is pretty good. Still, I would have preferred to get a minifigure, specially custom printed like we used to get in the past, but we didn't get it from, I think, the last two, so I don't think they're doing that anymore. This is pretty much the best we're going to get. And yeah, I do like this Christmas-themed water evaporator. It kind of makes sense within the universe. And then moving on to day 23, this is by far my favorite character. You did see him actually briefly in Rogue One as Blue Leader. This is Antok Merrick. So the body itself is the same body that we saw for like a U-Wing pilot, I believe. So the print there is not unique, but the print for his face is unique. You do get two expressions too, which is great. So this is kind of his more relaxed one. Also, this hairpiece, this wavy kind of slicked back hairpiece, is the first time we're getting it in the dark tan. So really, really good looking guy. It's just too bad that we don't get his helmet. Just kidding, day 24 is his helmet. It's a really nice build. It comes on this snowman, which, by the way, we haven't actually seen this print for a snowman head either, so that is technically unique. Bet you anything we're getting another one of those for the whatever that new winter village set that's coming out at the end of the year. Have a feeling we're probably going to get another one of those, so it's probably not going to remain exclusive, but that helmet print is really, really nice. I like it. Now, I do have to say it is kind of too bad that day 23 and day 24, which are usually like the best ones, that you pretty much only get the completed pilot minifigure over the course of the last 2 days, so it does feel a little bit like a jip. I do really like this character. I'm super glad that we did get him as a Lego minifig, but let me know what you think. I feel like they could have done him as his own fig and then maybe something else really, really cool. I'm just gonna leave that there. Okay, so very quick, final thoughts. I do think the advent calendar overall is strong. There weren't too many builds that I thought were just downright bad, which is good. There were, I think, more of those builds last year. Some of the choices maybe might not have been my favorite, but ultimately, even with the problem of maybe some significant repeats and copies, I would say that the builds overall have been an improvement from last year, and just some of the base figures, minifigs, I think I'm more happy to get this year than last year as well. This one is probably the Cloud City with the Cloud Car is probably my favorite, but in terms of the builds at least. But you know, let me know what you guys think, and let's get back into the main room. All right, that's it for this episode, everybody. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoy our content, you can always like or subscribe, and we'll see you next time at BrickVault. Hey everybody, just popping in very quickly. I'd like to let you guys know we've got ourselves a Lego web store that is www.brickvault.toys, where we sell the PDF step-by-step instructions for some incredibly high-quality Lego MOCs. It's absolutely worth checking out. The revenue from the web store helps support us here at the channel, as well as the designers that put these amazing builds together. So anyways, that's www.brickvault.toys. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you next time at BrickVault.